A devotional for March 27, a reflection on My Utmost for His Highest, written by Oswald Chambers. You can find the daily link to these devotionals at utmost.org. The text for today comes from Revelation 4, 1 and 2, verses 1 and 2 of Revelation chapter 4. After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me, like a trumpet, said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." At once I was in the Spirit, and there before me was a throne in heaven with someone sitting on it. And the devotional is titled Spiritual Vision Through Personal Character, focusing on Revelation 4, verse 1. Come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place. A higher state of mind and spiritual vision can only be achieved through the higher practice of personal character. If you live up to the highest and best that you know in the outer level of your life, God will continually say to you, "Friend, come up even higher." There is also a continuing rule in temptation which calls you to go higher, but when you do, you only encounter other temptations and character traits. Both God and Satan use the strategy of elevation, but Satan uses it in temptation, and the effect is quite different. When the devil elevates you to a certain place, he causes you to fasten your idea of what holiness is far beyond what flesh and blood could ever bear or achieve. Your life becomes a spiritual, acrobatic performance high atop a steeple. You cling to it, trying to maintain your balance and daring not to move. But when God elevates you by His grace into heavenly places, you find a vast plateau where you can move about with ease. Compare this week in your spiritual life with the same week last year to see how God has called you to a higher level. We have all been brought to see from a higher viewpoint. Never allow God to show you a truth which you do not instantly begin to live up to, applying it to your life. Always work through it, staying in its light. Your growth in grace is not measured by the fact that you haven't turned back, but that you have an insight and understanding into where you are spiritually. Have you heard God say, "Come up higher," not audibly, on the outer level, but to the innermost part of your character? Shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? Genesis 18, verse 17. God has to hide from us, what He does, until, due to the growth of our personal character, we get to the level where He is then able to reveal it. There are three key takeaways from this devotional that I want to spend just a moment on. First, noticing that it says both Satan and God will use this strategy of elevation or this tactic of elevation, but they're very different approaches. Satan will elevate us so that we get into a position where we have to cling to the things that brought us there. We'll have to cling to whatever methods we used, whatever tactics we used. We want to protect what we know to be true inside. Whereas God will elevate us to a place of grace, a place of greater footing, of more freedom. And it is only in that elevation that we can truly experience the freedom that God has to offer us. The second reflection here is that we also have to remember that we are not allowed to ignore what God has revealed to us. When God has revealed something to us, we are meant to apply it to our lives. It's not something where we can say, "Oh, I didn't know that." In fact, Scripture talks often about going back and repenting and making right and asking for forgiveness when we've done something wrong. And the point would be that when God reveals it to our character, reveals it to us, then we are now responsible to follow through. And the third and final thing comes at the end of that devotion, where it talks about how God will reveal to us what He is doing. But it has to be at a time and a place when we are able to handle that, when our personal character is able to know and trust God's actions. And I know for myself, had I looked ahead or been given some insight into the path that I would have taken, The younger me would not have been ready for that. The underdeveloped character of me would not have been ready for that. But as God has brought me through these different stages and transitions in my life, He has also then allowed me to see what He was doing, and He continues to develop the character in me so that I may continue to know even more of what His desires are.